Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Simon Carver, here with Billy Galligan. And Billy, I want to start today with a picture that completely reframes how we look at Irish-American history. Imagine it's 1919. Eamon de Valera, who had just escaped from Lincoln Gaol in England, lands in the United States. He doesn't go there just to hide out or give a few emotional speeches. He goes on this massive, year-long tour across America, raising what would eventually be over $5 million through the sale of Republican bond certificates to fund a war happening 3,000 miles away.
$5 million back in 1919. Sure, that's what, nearly $80 million in today's money? It's mind-boggling. You have to picture ordinary Irish immigrants, maids, bricklayers, rail workers, digging into their weekly wages in Boston or Chicago to buy these beautifully printed pieces of paper. They were essentially buying shares in a republic that didn't even legally exist yet. It's a hell of a gamble, but they took it.
And that's the thing. This wasn't just charity or sending money back home to pay the rent or buy a sack of flour, which had been the standard pattern of emigration remittances for decades. This was active geopolitical investment. These bond certificates explicitly promised that once the Irish Republic was recognised and established, they'd redeem them with interest. The diaspora wasn't just looking back with nostalgia, they were voting with their wallets for a sovereign future.
Aye, it made them shareholders in the revolution. When I was growing up in Inchicore, you'd hear stories about the old days, but you don't always realize how much of the fuel for the War of Independence came straight out of American pockets. It set up this deep, permanent psychological link. The crowd in America didn't see themselves as outsiders looking in. They felt they had earned a seat at the table because, quite literally, they paid for the roof over the new government's head.
It completely shifts the narrative from the tragic, passive emigrant forced onto a coffin ship during the famine years of the mid-19th century to this highly organised, politically conscious network. By the early 20th century, they had the capital and the numbers to make the British Empire incredibly nervous.
Oh, absolutely. The British knew exactly where the money was coming from. It's one thing to fight a rebellion on a small island. It's quite another when that island has a giant, wealthy shadow population across the Atlantic acting as its treasury. It gave the Irish leaders a leverage they never would have had otherwise.
That leverage didn't disappear after the treaty was signed either. If we fast forward to the late 20th century, that financial and emotional investment transformed into massive political clout in the halls of Washington, D.C. Suddenly, you have figures like Ted Kennedy, Tip O'Neill and Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the Four Horsemen as they were called, using their positions to directly influence American foreign policy toward Northern Ireland.
The Four Horsemen, aye. Now there's a heavy-duty political engine. What's fascinating here is how they managed to bend the ears of U.S. presidents, eventually getting Bill Clinton to appoint George Mitchell as a special envoy. Think about the tension that caused. The United States and the United Kingdom have this legendary special relationship, right? And here is Washington, stepping right onto London's toes, insisting on getting involved in what the British government considered an internal security matter.
It was a massive diplomatic gamble. I mean, Margaret Thatcher was famously furious about any American meddling in Northern Ireland. But the Irish-American lobby had become so sophisticated and so crucial to domestic US politics that Clinton couldn't ignore them. When George Mitchell was sent over, it changed the entire chemistry of the talks that eventually led to the Good Friday Agreement in 1998.
It really did. It wasn't about sentimental green beer and St. Patrick's Day parades anymore. This was hard-nosed, backroom diplomacy. You had Irish Americans holding the keys to the White House, forcing a superpower to act as a referee. Without that American weight pulling the sides together, I don't know if we ever get that peace. It showed that the diaspora's loyalty had matured from sending guns and cash to delivering sophisticated diplomatic pressure.
It's incredible to think about the evolution. You go from secret meetings in Tammany Hall in the late 1800s to a formal US senator coordinating peace talks in Belfast. The diaspora became the bridge that allowed all sides to find a way out of a 30-year conflict.
And it took real nerve too. It's like navigating a big school bus down a very narrow, winding lane with low-hanging branches. One wrong move, and the whole thing goes off the road. But they kept their cool, kept the pressure on, and got everyone across the line.
And once that peace was secured, the relationship transformed yet again. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Ireland became the Celtic tiger, this hyper-modern, tech-driven European economy. The flow of money completely reversed. It wasn't Irish Americans sending dollars home anymore. It was massive American tech giants like Google, Meta and Apple setting up their European headquarters in Dublin.
Sure, why not? Dublin turned into the Silicon Valley of Europe. But what I love about this is how the economic connection is mirrored by this massive cultural return. You have millions of Americans whose ancestors left on those crowded timber ships coming back to Ireland with their printouts from Ancestry.com, trying to find the exact stone wall or parish church where their great-great-grandmother was baptized.
It's a beautiful symmetry, isn't it? The census figures show over 43 million Americans claim an Irish ancestry. When they return, they aren't just tourists. They're looking for a piece of themselves. And Ireland, in turn, has built a whole industry around helping them find it, from local genealogy centres to the Epic Museum in Dublin.
It's a two-way street now. The green thread is a living, breathing bridge. My own journey went the other way, ending up in Georgia, but whenever I look at the traffic on that bridge, I'm amazed at how strong it remains. It survived the famine, it survived wars, and today it's as much about high-tech investments as it is about old family secrets buried in parish registers.
It makes you wonder what the next phase of this connection will look like. As the generations stretch further away from the original emigrants, does that bond hold, or does it transform into something entirely new?
It'll hold, Simon. As long as there's a story to be told and someone willing to listen over a cup of tea or a pint, that connection isn't going anywhere. We'll be grand.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.